to the panel members kind of introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Lisa Kleber. I'm the Executive Director of the Bayou Region Incubator for Nichols.
Okay, Nichols.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Joshua Cogswell. I am the Associate Dean for the Aldanos College of Business Administration. I'm also an Associate Professor of Management. I teach organizational behavior.
Hi everyone, I'm Lacey Hoffpower, and I'm currently the Innovation Ambassador for Nichols State University. I was the former Chief Innovation Officer. I recently stepped down because of the geographic change, but I am Nichols through and through, and I'm really excited to be a part of this panel and talk to all of you today. And I feel like we have a Nichols fan in the front, and I'm loving your energy.
Yay.
Just saying.
I appreciate that. It's a Friday afternoon. I know we're the last panel, but
Let's give him another round of applause,
thank you.
y'all,
We appreciate that.
for being the last panel and being awesome.
Thank you. So look, if you're from South Louisiana, or if you're not from South Louisiana, you know that gumbo is serious business, and that is the theme of our talk this afternoon. All right, so there's a lot of debates about gumbo, how you make your roux, how dark it's going to be. Some people are using roux from a jar. That's terrible, but we're not here to discuss that. Do you add okra? Do you not add okra? There's a lot of questions, all right? We want to welcome everybody. We're calling it Entrepreneurship 101, Cajun Hospitality as a Strategic Advantage. And that's a part of our overall theme, cooking up success, the gumbo of South Louisiana business. So obviously down here, culture shapes commerce, right? It is a big part of it. The relationships we have with other people and those other foundational issues. So we'll get into that. We've got a couple topics that we'll discuss. If you've got a burning question, you want us to address something, we'd love to take your questions as well. So please feel free. So the start of every gumbo is the roux. Obviously, if you burn the roux, it's terrible. You got to throw it away. You got to start over again. I did it just 2 months ago. I was in denial. I called my wife in. I said, Rachel, taste this. This is not burnt. She looked at me. She said, it is burnt. You must start all over. And there it was. So if you burn your roux, you got to start all over. And that is going to be the foundation of your gumbo. So I want to start out by talking about just generally the foundation of your business. So if you guys want to just start talking, what are some of those foundational issues that you need to be thinking about when you're building your business?
So oftentimes in the incubator, I have lots of people coming in, they have ideas. And the ideas are their passion, but the foundation is everything that comes after the idea. And so, in my opinion here, the foundation of your business is to make sure that the right people are on your team and they're puzzle pieces to what you do. And they don't necessarily copy you, but they fit together. They have the skills that you can admit you don't have. And so for me, that's a really good foundation when you're starting your business or when you're keeping it and you're scaling it.
So I want to go back a little further than even the idea is the idea of integrity. So when you're selling your business to investors, to new customers, to new clients, are you able to deliver what you say you're going to deliver? The foundation of business is trust. And if you are not a trustworthy entrepreneur, you're not a trustworthy business owner, you're going to have a hard time doing business. You may have a brilliant idea, but if you can't deliver, if you can't deliver on the promises you make, you're going to really struggle to build that business.
Yeah, and I think we're almost to a point now. Obviously, technology is an amazing resource, right? And we use it for so much good, but it's the human contact, right? And so like Josh was talking about, like the trust you're building as a person goes so much further now. And if you know that you're doing business with someone that is super trustworthy, I think that only enhances your brand.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that. So down south, really in Thibodaux, our fingerlings that protrude into the Gulf, you can have all the marketing dollars in the world, but as soon as your word of mouth goes sour, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have the best marketing, the best product. Word of mouth spreads really, really quickly, faster than anything else.
And kind of along the lines of what they've been talking about, trust, integrity, those foundational principles, what is your purpose? So a lot of people have a lot of really great ideas, and then you start sharing your ideas, you start sharing those concepts with other people, and, oh, have you thought about doing this? Oh, have you thought about doing this? But stay true to what your core principles of business are. You don't have to be everything to everyone. Really hone in on what you do well, and build up that reputation, build up that network, those relationships. There's always time to expand and grow and to offer other products and services, But one of the things that I see a lot of times with young, early stage businesses is, and this happened to me when we were starting small businesses, and, well, have you thought about doing this? One of my great examples of this, we started a charter school in Thibodeau, Louisiana, and we started pre-K to 3rd grade. And we grew a grade every year, and we got all the way up to 8th grade. From the moment we opened the doors, people were like, well, have you done a high school? Are you doing a high school? Well, that was not our purpose. That was not who we were. That was not what we started out to do. And we never did start a high school. But what we did do was become the highest performing school in the district. They actually just built a beautiful new building. And that was because we never lost sight of who we were and what purpose we were there to fulfill. And so I think that's a great lesson for young entrepreneurs. Who are you? What is your purpose? What need are you filling? Are there other people in the market doing that? How do you differentiate, and how do you stand out from the herd, so to speak?
That's great. So we've laid the foundation. Now it's time for the flavor. So along the same lines, piggybacking on what we just said, but a little bit different question. How do you stand out, right? So what are some specific things that you could do to stand out, where your reputation and the relationships that we were talking about really matter?
Right, yeah. So I was actually going to jump on to what Lacey was saying. If I talked about integrity, I think the theme of hers I could probably summarize as authenticity, right? And that's huge on the bayou, being who you are. And so, there are a million businesses who do things efficiently and mass-produce products, but how do you create that unique flavor? We talk a lot about culture down the bayou, and it is very unique. I'm a transplant. I've only been in Thibodeau for 7 years.
I didn't want to call him out, but that is true.
It's fine, he still uses jar root.
That's right. I can say in the grocery store, I did see some locals buying it. They were very sheepish about it. But
I doubt they're locals,
That's
but continue.
So authenticity matters, and staying true, and having a very unique perspective. We have a Lisa can tell you about a business in the incubator, a watchmaking business that really thinks about the unique cultural elements of being in South Louisiana. In I think New Orleans, he has some New Orleans products as well. And do you mind telling about a little bit about that?
No, and so he was a good example, this certain company, of people trying to pivot his business for him. And so knowing your boundaries, I think there's a lot of self-awareness to do there, whether you're a small business, an entrepreneur, or a larger business. Sometimes that means getting your whole team on board with your vision. Because if they're not there, they may be out in the public and they may be saying things that you'll say yes to, and that's not consistent with your brand. And so getting the vision together, getting the self-awareness of the group, and being able to say no with those parameters and not pivot when you don't feel like it's the right time to pivot. That's not in your plan, that's not in your vision, that's not in your goals. And making sure everyone buys in that same exact way is a huge, huge pivoting moment in your business, is keeping it floating and scaling the way you want it to go.
Absolutely. Lacey, do you have anything to add on to that?
No, I think they've said everything perfectly as relates to that topic. I echo a lot of what y'all have already said.
And here we go with the mic. No, I think that they both have summarized every bit of that perfectly, but also saying no doesn't mean no forever. That's another key lesson that I learned. Sometimes your no is just not right now, and that's okay too. So taking a moment to pause. Ironically, one of the things that I'm going to share with this group is that I hated public speaking. Absolutely hated it, and got a job working for the president of Nicholls State University, and made the mistake on one of my performance evaluations of telling him, I love what I do, but can you, I hate public speaking. That's one area I really want to improve on. And that was a mistake. You never tell the president, who is your number one pusher and wants you to stretch yourself, that you don't like to public speak. Because from that point forward, I would be in the middle of a meeting and he would hand me the microphone and, you need to talk, Lacey. Lacey will handle this. And I'm like, I am. But all of that to say, just because that's not your area of expertise or something that you're not ready to jump into doesn't mean that it's forever. Sometimes your no is just not right now, and that's okay. That doesn't mean your dream has to stay small and won't grow. It probably will grow, but you want your foundation, that base, that roof to be really, really strong so that you can flourish and succeed and be around and sustainable for the future.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. So in South Louisiana, obviously networking it's relational, right? It's not just a transaction. It's not a one-off. There's people that you constantly see, run into, and you want to do business with over the long term. So how do y'all think that community can actually accelerate the growth of your business?
So South Louisiana, you're in it, right? It is all about networking. It is all about relationships. The more you can make, the better. The more you can make a relationship and network without asking for a single thing, the better. So partnerships, I'm seeing partnerships in the incubator where we have drone companies meeting realty groups, and all of a sudden they have a partnership, right? We have hot sauces meeting donut food trucks. All of a sudden there's a new product, right? These things don't happen with, hey, I'm gonna go talk to this person and it's an intentional plan to get their product with mine. It's a relationship and a fluid movement, and the more that you can do that networking and come to these relationships together where you're growing in the idea together, the tighter the partnership will be. And so networking is huge to give yourself exposure to any of that. You may be networking in a group and think you have no common ground, no future with any single person in this room. I might be sitting right here and I don't know any of you, and I have no intention on having any partnership with any of you. And then after this, we have some common ground. And down the road, maybe there's something happening. So you can't take for granted when you have the opportunity to do the networking, show up even when you don't feel like it. That's that number one thing that entrepreneurs say is, I'd go to that chamber luncheon, but I have so much to do in my business right now. If you're not protecting the time to work on your business, no one is. You can't stay working in the business all the time, or no one's working on it. So networking is that huge piece of that missing scaling that happens with fluid and natural movement versus forced.
That is a great point. That's absolutely brilliant. As a resident academic on the panel, I'm going to get a little academic. And one of my favorite books is a book called Give and Take by Adam Grant. And he talks about the importance of something called the 5-minute favor. If somebody asks you to do something, it takes less than 5 minutes, just do it for them. Without expectation of return payment, you build a reputation as somebody who's helpful. And whether that's taking that meeting with that hot sauce entrepreneur or that donut truck person, right? It can help you grow your business. And you never know who's connected with who can put you in a room with an investor, with an angel funder, somebody who can help you take that business to the next level. So I'm a big proponent of the 5-minute favor, of building those networks. It's really amazing how, especially in the Bayou, as I was sitting at the table with all of y'all who went to high school together and hearing all your stories, it's amazing how closely connected you really are to people who have resources, who have knowledge and expertise that can help you improve and develop your business.
Relationships matter. This goes back to the very probably first thing that Josh said earlier: trust, authenticity. Relationships, how you treat people, how you engage with people on a daily basis, it matters. It keeps people coming back. It opens your doors. It opens your opportunities. A great example that literally happened to us in the last 24 hours. We travel quite a bit, and we're booking rooms. We're going through Expedia. What's the best rate? Is this a good area? We're running through stuff. And sometimes you walk in and you're like, oh, I love this hotel. This is beautiful. That was not our experience here in New Orleans. We walked into the room and we were like, this is iffy. But what I can say is that the hotel staff was phenomenal. From the second that we walked into the doors until literally we were leaving, they were giving us recommendations on where we should have dinner. They were asking us, can we check your bags because our room wasn't ready? Whenever we got there, do you want us to park? Let's make sure we validate your parking. We don't want you to get a boot. To me, that is exceptional service. And so the room was not the quality room that I want, but I can tell you that I would absolutely book another stay here because I got something exceptional that made me memorize. Not only do I remember them, we talked about them at dinner last night, and I said again this morning as I was leaving and got that same pleasant experience. This wasn't the greatest room, but I'm gonna come back. And so creating those networks, those relationships, those opportunities really open doors. And I'm going to go a step further and say that sometimes those are not your comfort areas. I obviously am an extrovert. I am one of 7, and that is my comfort zone. But don't be afraid to try something new or get to know other people. I just changed zip codes, and there was that moment of trepidation, like, oh, well, I don't know anyone, so I'm not going to step outside my box and start going to chamber lunches. But you know what I did do? I have friends here. I've already emailed friends and said, hey, I really want to join some of these chamber events. Would you like to go with me? They're young business owners, they're young entrepreneurs, they're movers and shakers in that area. And so we can create those networks and expand those networks and lean into those opportunities.
I love it. Would any of y'all have, talking about relationships, would any of y'all be able to share kind of a relationship that you had that completely changed your trajectory?
I feel like every relationship changes my trajectory, and I need to stop changing my trajectory. It keeps giving me more and more work, right? I'll say this. I think that 2 things. So one, what they hit on, people don't remember what you say to them. They remember how you make them feel. And so have that goal in the back of your head of making the other person or yourself feel good at a networking event, and you'll be more motivated to go network. So one of the things that I'll tell entrepreneurs when they come into the incubator, they do this whole self-discovery onboarding. And so when they have networking as one of their one of their goals, one of the things they feel like they need to grow in, the thing is, start reflecting on what you do. How many times do you go to a networking event, and how many times do you say, nah, not today? And then when you're at the networking event, how many people are you talking to? And so what I started discovering after shadowing a few of them is they'll go to the networking event, they'll get their food, and then they sit down. And I say, oh no, come on, we're getting out of our comfort zone. And they're like, but I don't know anybody here. And I'm like, I don't either. So if we look like a fool, who cares? So hi, I'm Lisa. I run the incubator. What you do? And I think that's part of our Southern culture is just to get out there, and if we make a fool of ourselves, who cares?
Any other relationships?
Yeah, so I'll share one. He wasn't from Louisiana. He was from Mississippi. But Mississippi is the hospitality state, so I think he has that spirit. But he was a gentleman named John Palmer. He was ambassador to Portugal for George W. Bush. Had taken several companies public, was in the telecom industry. So he's a serial entrepreneur. And after he retired and sold his businesses, he was kind of bored. So he started a venture capital fund, starting new businesses and investing in new businesses. And I just never will forget that relationship and what he taught me about networking and relationships, because he really helped me understand that someone's endorsement or sponsorship of you matters. What people say about you in rooms where you're not there matters. And so if I could impress him, if I could deliver for him, he was going to tell his very influential network of people that I was someone who could get things done. And so if you're that person who gets things done, make sure you have those sponsors, you build those networks, and you value those relationships. I wanted to impress him. I wanted to make sure that he felt like I was trustworthy and capable, because that meant I then could be part of his network and have that relationship. And I've never forgotten that relationship.
And similar to everyone else on the panel, I've had many integral relationships that have changed the trajectory of my life, both good and bad. But several of them that I'm thinking of just off the top of my head is your reputation precedes you. And there are a lot of times so for example, when I left my role as a business manager for Bayou Community Academy, I had been with them 8.5 years. I was ready for some change. I like to start things. My running joke is I like to start things. I don't like to run them long term because I'm easily bored and I like challenges. And so I had hit that point in my career where I was ready for that next challenge. And had a great relationship with my boss at the time, and we talked about it, and I had built such a relationship with her that she actually identified the next opportunity for me and advocated for me to get this job, and it was a position that didn't even exist, right? And so I was invited in for an opportunity that didn't even exist because she said, you need to talk to her. What you're talking about, she can do. I walk into a meeting with the president, he describes something, and I'm like, okay. the important and key takeaway from that is that has happened at every stage almost of my career, and it was all about building a reputation and a relationship with people, that they could trust me and that they knew that they could lean on me. If they needed something done and done right, they can do it. The other big takeaway from that is, I remember when I was graduating with my master's in business and I was offered 3 jobs. I was not looking for jobs. I actually was called or emailed or approached for all 3 of these job opportunities based on my experiences as a college student and the work ethic that I demonstrated. And I'm saying that to say, I remember like literally shaking in my boots, because the one that I thought I wanted to take, the safe one, was not the one that caught my attention. It was actually starting a charter school with my former boss. And I went to one of my professors at the time and said, I've gone on all these interviews and I should take the safe job here at the university, but I really, really want to do this. And this stuck with me, and I hope it sticks with all of you. I said, I don't know if I can do this. Like 70% of charter schools failed at that time due to fiscal mismanagement. That's the job they were hiring me for. I don't know if I can do this. I don't want to fail. And he looked at me and he said, I know you well enough to know that if you take this job, and he said, I think you can do it. I think you'll do wonderfully. But if you cannot, you are honest enough and you have enough integrity to tell them and to make sure that this does not fail on your watch. And that stuck with me. If you can't do something, it's okay to say, I need some help, or this is not working. Your integrity, your reputation matter, and that is relational. That is what is going to keep your doors open and your business thriving. So don't be afraid to say, this is not really in my wheelhouse. I don't think I can do this. Because sometimes that's the difference between failure, success, and continued relationships and trust for the future.
That's good.
Now that was good. You have to admit that was very good. Yeah, we got some snacks. I appreciate that. So look, we've got our base, right? We've got the root. Obviously, we've got some flavor, the bell pepper. We've got support, the celery, but we need the execution, the chicken, because obviously this is a chicken and sausage gumbo, folks. This is not anything else. All right. So tell us. So what do y'all think separates businesses that survive from those that just stall out or don't make it?
I feel like I can talk about this way too much, so I'm gonna limit myself. Self-awareness. The ability to be able to admit what you don't know and what you need help with. And then being able to execute that self-awareness as a strategic tool. So I tell this lecture over and over again. I used to work with principals, and I used to tell them often, you need some self-awareness. And they would look at me like they want to shoot daggers at me, right? But what it is just being able to admit what you don't know, what you need help with. So a few entrepreneurs I talked to, the very first person they want to hire, they're ready, they got the profit, boy, it's time. And they want to get rid of the thing that wakes them up in the morning and keeps them going with their job. They want to be able to be the expert when they train someone. I start a marketing business, I'm going to train a marketer because I can teach them and they're going to have respect for me as their boss. But that's not what's draining their energy. That's the thing that wakes them up. That's their passion. The thing that's draining their energy is the finances, all the other things. Be self-aware enough to be able to admit what drains you and what you need skills and to work on, and then hire that to complement you. I talk about puzzle pieces all the time. To me, that is the difference between, basically, it's setting yourself up to be a good leader. And without good leadership, you're not gonna have the morale to keep your customers coming back and your employees staying. And your turnovers are just gonna break you faster than anything else would.
Awesome. I would also, I love that. And I think there was something that Lacey had mentioned earlier that was discussed last night with some of the family firms, is separating the personal from the business, right? And understanding that while you may be very emotionally attached to this business, and you've spent years of your life in some cases developing it, that it might at some point be time to make some decisions that you don't like emotionally, right? I had a friend who started a firm. He was a technology person. It was an AI startup. He realized that he was not good at selling the business, right? He was good at building the tech side. He needed someone to sell the business. He hired a CEO who ended up embezzling a whole bunch of money from the business that had been given by investors. And he just kept going and going and going long past the point where it was time to move on. And so I would say being able to make those hard decisions unemotionally, with as much rational thinking as you can, and separating that, where you talk about failure, he thought he was a failure, and he didn't want to think of himself as a failure, but it wasn't his failure. It was a business failure that had other factors involved. So separating that personal from the business, I think, is really important.
And just to tag along with what my other two panelists were saying, you're going to fail. It's inevitable. I'm not saying that you're going to fail at every step or every stage, but at some point in your career, in your personal life, in your professional life, you're going to fail. It's okay. That failure should not stop you. Get back up. Brush yourself off. Keep on going. Literally, I sat in one of the main stage panels. It was some folks that we know from the Bayou region, two very, very large businesses, some of the largest businesses in Louisiana, Bollinger Shipyards. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with them. But one of the things, and I was sharing this with my friends on stage, and I said, one of the things that stuck with me, the most important thing that I think that they shared in that panel, was that two of those businesses almost went bankrupt. Two of the largest businesses in Louisiana almost went bankrupt at various points. They could have said, we failed. Literally, one of them was down from, there are over 4,000 employees, just to give y'all some scale and size. They had about 20 employees on their payroll at one time. They could have walked away. They could have closed up shop. They rolled up their sleeves. They figured out how to adapt to a changing environment. And they came back stronger, and now they're one of the strongest companies. You can fail. You can make missteps. I think what sets winning companies apart is when you make those missteps. You don't sit there and bury your head in the sand. You acknowledge that you've made mistakes. You look at the landscape, the picture. Is it time to cut bait? Is it time to go in another direction? Can I turn this failure into an opportunity to learn, to get back up, and to succeed, and to set my business apart for the future?
I just want to point out the great Southern Louisiana reference, cutting bait.
I didn't realize I said that.
I'm passionate about this one.
Go.
So I have some things to say off of that. So if you're gonna be an entrepreneur and you're gonna have one celebrity in mind, one like really business person in mind, is Rocky Balboa. Life is not all sunshine and rainbows. You will get hit. Get up faster than you went down. And as long as you're failing fast and you have your team constantly asking what's next, okay? So you took out a loan, you went through it, you're feeling like a little bitty piece of dirt on the ground because you wore out those funds. Now what? And when you get your team in the cycle saying, okay, now what? When things fail, it's a forward movement. You're teaching the trend of the forward movement. But also I want to say storytelling. The good business owners can tell their story. If you do any research on anything, go on Masterclass and go look up, I think it's Mark Cuban, and he has a masterclass on the art of storytelling. And I think Bob Iger might do it too for Disney. It is mastering how to tell your story to anyone you meet. And that's separate from an elevator pitch. Elevator pitch is gonna, it's gonna go through certain things, which you also need to know, and you know how to change your audience. But telling the story of why your business has come to be ignites an emotion. And when you can ignite someone's emotion, they're on board with you. Okay. Sorry, I told you I was passionate.
No, it was great. It was great. All good thoughts. So we've got about 3 minutes left. We've got all the elements. Our last thing we're putting in this gumbo is, of course, it needs a little kick. We're going to put the sausage in. So we've got about 3 minutes to talk about where do we think entrepreneurs need more courage?
Everywhere and always. Yeah. It is a big thing. So I used to be a fairly serious runner, and the hardest thing to do was just to take the first step. Every morning when I got up to train, before I started, my brain is saying, "Ooh, is that a little? I feel a little thing in my knee, or should I run today? I'm getting all up in my head. It's kind of early. I could use a little more sleep." Turn it off. Take the first step. Walk out the door and do it. and you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. So I think everywhere and always, but also at the very beginning, get started. I think that's the hardest thing for people to just get out there and get started.
Find your people. That's probably the number one thing I have learned is find your people. And your people are not always your cheerleaders. Sometimes your people are going to give you some brutal, hard truths that are not fun. They're going to tell you messed up. They're going to tell you you're going in the wrong direction. They're going to tell you you need this credential. You need to go back and get your doctorate. They're going to tell you things you don't want to hear. Find your people, people that you can trust, people that are not the yes people. Listen to them. This does not need to be a huge group, and I don't recommend it being a huge group, but you find that core group of people who are like-minded individuals who may be in a different sector, but they want to succeed, they want to grow, they want to start businesses, they want to innovate, and listen when they talk. You don't always have to be the loudest voice in the room. Some of the best things I've ever done have come from just sitting and listening to other people. And I am a talker, so that's not always easy for me. But sometimes I need to be quiet, and I need to listen, and I need to learn from people who know things I don't know.
Yeah, I'll go off of hers a little bit, and I'm going to say active listening. So it is a skill that a lot of us in the South do not have because we are wanting to interrupt. We want to say we want to reply with an I story. You know, my mom did that too, right? And it's really great, and it's a tool and a skill that you can build and use not only with your intrinsic employee, your team, but also to your customers. So earlier we talked about making sure you're not pivoting just because someone, being able to say no when someone says, oh, well, do you, whatever. But active listening to that can tell you where your customers may want you to go. So not necessarily internalizing it, but really active listening to your employees, to the any stakeholders that you encounter. And it's a skill that has to be developed big time.
Awesome. Well, folks, that's our time this afternoon. Thank y'all so much for coming out. It's been an honor to be here at Loyola. Thank you.